Welcome to the Inner Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Paul Ryan, and today I want to talk to you about the danger of making decisions when you're in a highly emotional state. We all become emotional at times. Emotions are good, but emotions are not designed to help us make strategic decisions. The problem is, when you're drifting towards either end of the spectrum, you have moved out of the executive function and you've moved into a part of the brain that does not make good strategic decisions. Now, when I say strategic decisions, I just don't mean business or professional decisions, although they're important. I mean any decision that's not fight or flight. If you experience, say, anger or fear, and you're in a life-threatening situation, obviously then you want to make an immediate emotional decision to get out of that situation. But mostly we're not in those sort of situations. Mostly we're in situations that some degree of strategy is involved, and that can be personal, business. What I mean is it requires you to think it out. It requires you to plan a little bit and think through what are the choices, what are the options, and what's the best way to move forward. Now, I've had the experience of making business decisions when I was both angry and business decisions when I was elated. And my experience in both situations is they do not end well. When I've made decisions and I'm angry, what tends to happen is I make irrational decisions. I make decisions that are striking out, and I tend to make the situation worse. I tend to prolong the problem that I'm maybe trying to get rid of. I end up making it worse for other people involved, and I make it worse for myself. But I've also made some decisions when I've been elated. And the interesting thing is, when we're elated, we tend to see possibility, we see opportunity. That's what our mind is focused on. Just like when we're angry and we're frustrated, we tend to only see problems, risks, and dangers. And the truth is, life is somewhere in between. And if we're looking at a situation where we have to make a strategic decision and we're only seeing the risks and the danger, then we're out of balance because there are possibilities and we're not seeing those possibilities. But I've made some decisions when I've been elated, when I've been joyful. And what I mean by that is I've seen an opportunity and I've gone, this is going to be a great business opportunity, a great investment, whatever. You know, when you get into that state of mind, when you're not looking at something in a balanced way, you're looking at something in an elated way, and you're only seeing opportunity. And making decisions when you only see opportunity is also dangerous. A number of months ago, I got a call from a client, and he was certainly in an emotional state. He was angry. The anger wasn't heightened. It was now more of a simmering anger because the anger had gone on for about 3 or 4 weeks. And the anger was in relation to a particular individual who he felt had treated him poorly. And he felt very hurt, he felt offended, he felt annoyed. All of those emotions were stirring inside. And he had made 2 decisions based on this interaction. The first step was to end the professional relationship with this person, which is probably a very good idea. And he'd gone down the road of doing that, and over the next couple of days, that professional relationship was going to come to an end, and now he never had to see the person again. And he had a choice of just washing his hands, walking away and going, that was a bad experience. It's over. I never want to go there again. I never want to see you again. It's over. I can forget about it and move on. But he decided not to do that. He decided he was going to pursue legal action. In other words, he was going to take some sort of a legal case against this person. Now, when I teased it out with him, it was clear he really didn't have a financial motive. He hadn't incurred any particular loss or cost, so that wasn't an issue for him. What he had incurred was hurt and anger and irritation and frustration and indignation. That was the pain he was carrying. And so the purpose of taking legal action against this person was revenge. He wanted to strike back at them. There was no financial motive. He wanted them to suffer. He wanted them to realize what they had done. He wanted to cause them pain. And ultimately he wanted them to lose their job. He wanted them to be sorry they had ever crossed him. So really, he wanted revenge. Now, in my experience, when we're hurt and when we're angry with someone, we tend to strike out. And I suppose that is the fight or flight brain. When we're in a situation, if it's physically threatening, we have a natural reaction to run or to fight and to strike out. And so my client was in the fight mode. He wanted to fight back. But the war was coming to an end within a day or 2 and it would be done. So where was the need for him to fight back? And the need for him to fight back was to get back at this person, was to strike back and to have some revenge. And in my experience, we never feel better after revenge. It never solves the problem. It never makes us feel good about ourselves. But he has to work that out for himself. What I want to do is move him into a state of mind where he is making the best possible decision. I've been in India many times, and on one occasion my teacher said to me, anything that starts in anger ends in suffering. So any decision or action we take when we're angry leads to more suffering. And when I reflected on that, and when I looked at my own life, and I looked at when I had made personal and professional decisions when I was hurt or angry, they never ended well. They were never good decisions. So thinking on that, I knew what I needed to do for my client was to move him out of that state of mind. Move him into a state of mind where he was thinking more clearly, more logically, where he had moved into the prefrontal cortex, the executive function of the brain, and he could make the best decision for himself. So my first question was, could he delay making a decision on this for 30 days? I mean, would it impact on his ability to take a case if he didn't take any action for 30 days? Now, immediately he was resistant to the idea because he wanted to strike out now, but that's the angry mind. But he admitted it would actually make no difference whatsoever if he didn't act now, and he delayed acting for 30 days. So I asked him for a commitment to first consider delaying his action for 30 days. And once we'd agreed to that, I asked him would he now spend the next couple of weeks documenting what had happened. And I don't really mean documenting the ABCDs, because he knew all of that. And if he wanted to pursue a legal case, he could go and do that. What I wanted him to document was his emotional journey. What I wanted him to document was what had happened that had made him feel hurt, made him feel angry. I wanted it to get it out on paper, because as we all know, getting something out on paper is very therapeutic. And I could help him take it out of his emotional state and onto a piece of paper. I knew it would tone down the emotional anger. I knew it would move him into a better state. So if I could get him to dial down the intensity of the emotion he was feeling, I knew he would move towards better decision making. So in this step, he would spend a couple of weeks documenting his own emotions, beginning to reflect on how he felt, and hopefully beginning to realize that he had some responsibility for how he felt. Now, I'm not saying he had responsibility for the actions or responsibility for the behavior of the other person, but he does have some responsibility for how he feels. I'm sure you've been in situations where an event happens and people react differently. Some people remain very calm, very structured thinking. Some people panic. Some people don't seem to be bothered at all. What we realize from that is that events are separate to our reactions to it. And our reactions are based on our perception of the situation and our own inner state. So knowing this, we have to look to take responsibility for our own emotions, our own feelings, realizing that events will take place in the world, and we can't let the world control how we feel. We have to go inside and do the inner work so we can control, at least be aware of how we feel. And once we become very aware of how we feel and we see our emotions stirring, we can begin to separate that from the event that's taking place and realize, well, we can park the event for the moment and we can begin to look inward and see can we heal our own emotional journey. So in doing this, I hoped that some blame would be removed to the situation. I hoped we would begin to see that, yes, this person had wronged him, but his reaction was his own and his feeling was his own. And once he recognized his feeling was his own, then maybe he could begin to release those feelings and he wouldn't feel quite as angry. Now, sometimes we can do that simply by taking the pen to paper, which I'm a huge fan of, because when we start to write things down, firstly, it does remove them emotionally from us sometimes. It helps us tone it down. And secondly, we get a clearer understanding. I also wanted him to explore on that journey whether or not any old emotions had been triggered. I mean, whether or not this specific event had also triggered emotions, feelings, memories of something that might have happened to him in the past. So there was kind of a double trigger there. And my hope is that over the coming weeks, he would begin to accept responsibility for his own emotions. And in accepting responsibilities for his own emotions, he'd begin to realize that if he wanted to feel better, if he wanted to feel more peaceful again, if he wanted to maybe forgive this person, that was all internal work. It was nothing to do with the person. So if he could move himself to a stage where some distance had passed between the event, and that distance will automatically tone down the intensity of the emotion, and when he could begin to take some ownership for his own feelings, then he would be in a completely different emotional state. So it's not for me to decide what my client should do next. He has to decide how he wants to proceed. Certainly one option is that he just finishes the relationship with the person and moves on, never thinks about it again. But even if he does that, if he doesn't address his own emotions, he may still continue to suffer. Second option is to seek revenge, is to go and see if he can pursue this person legally and have some sort of a win, get that revenge he wants. But my fear is that if he does that, he just won't feel better. He'll probably feel worse after it. He will do more damage to himself and more damage to someone else. A third option is he might go through this process and he might turn down the emotion, he might accept responsibility for how he feels, he might reduce his anger or no longer feel anger towards this person. But he might look at it and he go, I forgive this person, I no longer feel anger, I've now taken control and I've taken responsibility for my own feelings and my own emotions, and go, I forgive this person, I've moved on, I've healed internally, so I'm no longer wound up, I'm no longer angry. And when I'm no longer angry at this person, I'm no longer a victim of them. I'm now in control of my own state of mind. And from that state of mind, maybe he will decide the best thing for him to do is to pursue some legal action simply because this person maybe needs to learn how to behave differently because maybe they might cause harm to someone else. Whatever choice he makes is not that important. What's important is the state of mind he makes the choice from. So my encouragement to you is when you get into an emotional state, realize that's not a good state to make a decision from. And give yourself the space through time, through maybe doing some journaling, maybe go and speak to someone. Could be a friend, a therapist, a coach, a mentor, but give yourself the opportunity and the time to move back into a calm, logical state of mind. That time doesn't have to be 30 days. Sometimes all it will take is 10 minutes or an hour. Go for a walk. But allow yourself to come back into a calm state of mind, because from that calm state of mind, you will make a much better decision for you. And better decisions lead to more choices, lead to better outcomes. And better outcomes is a better life for you and for everyone else. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. It really helps the show. Until next time, take care.